The runaway billionaire's shelter. The morning rain had turned the old city streets into mirrors, reflecting the gray sky and weathered buildings like forgotten memories. Sarah Martinez pulled her worn coat tighter as she approached the downtown shelter where she volunteered every Tuesday. The building stood modest and unassuming between a closed bookstore and a laundromat, its painted sign reading Hope Harbor Community Shelter in faded blue letters. Sarah had been coming here for 3 years now. Ever since she lost her teaching job during the budget cuts, helping others had become her way of finding purpose again. Even when her own apartment rent was 2 months behind and her savings account showed a number that made her stomach clench. As she fumbled with her keys at the shelter's side entrance, she noticed movement in the narrow alley beside the building. A man sat hunched against the brick wall, his dark hair plastered to his head from the rain. He wore what looked like expensive white pants, now stained and damp, and his bare chest glistened with rainwater. His beard was thick and unkempt, and he was shivering violently. "Hey," Sarah called softly, approaching him with careful steps. "Are you okay?" The man looked up, and she was struck by his eyes, dark brown and filled with something that looked like desperation mixed with exhaustion. He appeared to be in his 30s, with strong features that spoke of someone who had once been well cared for. "I'm fine," he said, though his chattering teeth betrayed his words. Just need a moment." Sarah studied him for a long moment. She had learned to read people during her years at the shelter. This man didn't carry the usual signs of long-term homelessness. His hands, though dirty now, were soft. His posture, even while shivering, held traces of confidence that hadn't been worn away by months on the street. "Come inside," she said, unlocking the door. "It's warm, and I can get you some dry clothes." The man hesitated, looking back toward the street as if expecting someone to appear. "I don't know if I should listen," Sarah interrupted gently. "I don't know what brought you here, but nobody deserves to sit in the rain and cold. Whatever it is, it can wait until you're warm." Something in her voice seemed to reach him. He nodded slowly and followed her inside. The shelter's main room was quiet at this hour, filled with the scent of yesterday's coffee and the lingering warmth from the overnight heaters. Sarah led him to a chair near the small kitchen area and wrapped him in a thick blanket from their supply closet. "I'm Sarah," she said, filling a mug with hot coffee from the pot she'd started. "What's your name?" He accepted the coffee gratefully, wrapping his hands around the warm ceramic. "Marcus," he said after a pause. "Marcus Thompson." A slight hesitation didn't escape Sarah's notice, but she'd learned not to push. People shared their stories when they were ready, not before. "Well, Marcus Thompson, let me find you some dry clothes." She disappeared into the back room and returned with jeans, a flannel shirt, and worn sneakers. These should fit bathrooms right through that door. When Marcus emerged 10 minutes later, he looked more human. The clothes fit reasonably well, and he'd managed to comb his hair back with his fingers. But the worry lines around his eyes remained, and he kept glancing toward the windows. "Feeling better?" Sarah asked, refilling his coffee. "Much thank you." He paused, studying her face. "You do this often? Help strangers?" Sarah smiled, settling into the chair across from him. "Every Tuesday for 3 years. Sometimes other days too, when I can manage it. You don't get paid for this volunteer work," she explained. "I used to be a teacher, but, well, life has a way of changing your plans." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee. "Yes," he said finally, "it certainly does." They sat in comfortable silence as the rain continued to tap against the windows. Sarah noticed Marcus checking an expensive-looking watch, one thing about him that clearly didn't belong in their donated clothes collection. "Nice watch," she observed. Marcus looked down at it, then laughed a sound that held no humor. "A gift from my father. For my 21st birthday. He said it would remind me of the importance of time, of not wasting it on foolish pursuits." Sounds like he had strong opinions about how you should spend your life. "You could say that." Marcus met her eyes. "What if I told you I was supposed to be somewhere else right now? Somewhere very important, where people are expecting me, where my absence is probably causing quite a scene." Sarah leaned back in her chair, studying him. "I'd say that sometimes the most important thing you can do is not be where everyone expects you to be." Marcus blinked, clearly not expecting that response. "Even if disappointing them ruins everything you've worked for." "Depends on what you've been working toward," Sarah said quietly, "and whether it's what you actually want, or just what others want for you." The rain outside had softened to a gentle patter, and morning light was beginning to filter through the clouds. Marcus stood up and walked to the window, his hands clasped behind his back. "I was supposed to get married this morning," he said, suddenly. "Big wedding, 400 guests, my father's business associates, politicians, society people, all arranged very carefully to benefit everyone involved." Sarah felt her stomach tighten. "Everyone except you." Marcus turned back to her and she saw tears in his eyes. "I've been engaged to Victoria for 2 years. She's beautiful, intelligent, from the right family. Our marriage would merge the companies, create opportunities, strengthen connections." He laughed bitterly. "What it wouldn't create is love. So you ran away." I stood at the altar in my $1,000 suit, looked out, at all those expectant faces, and realized I couldn't do it. I couldn't promise to love someone I barely know, just because it made good business sense. He shook his head. I pulled off my jacket and tie, walked out the back of the church, and kept walking until I ended up here. Sarah absorbed this information, slowly. The white pants, she said. They're from your wedding outfit. What's left of it? Marcus sat back down, suddenly looking very young despite his beard and tired eyes. My name isn't Thompson, by the way. It's Marcus Wellington, as in Wellington Industries. Sarah's eyes widened. She'd heard the name everyone in the city had. Wellington Industries owned half the downtown district, including the building that housed her old school. You're telling me you're a billionaire sitting in my homeless shelter wearing donated clothes? Former billionaire. Probably. My father isn't known for forgiveness, especially when it comes to business matters. Marcus met her gaze. But you know what? For the first time in my life, I feel like I can breathe. Sarah was quiet for a long moment, processing everything. Finally, she smiled. Well, former billionaire or not, you still need breakfast. And I still need help setting up for the lunch service. You willing to stick around and make yourself useful? Marcus stared at her, then broke into the first genuine smile she'd seen from him. You're not going to ask me about the money? About what I'm giving up? Money's just money. Marcus, but freedom. Sarah stood up and extended her hand to him. That's priceless. He took her hand and stood, and for a moment they simply looked at each other. Two people who had lost what they thought they wanted and found something unexpected instead. Besides, Sarah added with a grin, I could use someone with business experience to help me figure out how to keep this place funded. Marcus laughed, and this time it was full of genuine warmth. I think I can help with that. Outside, the rain had stopped completely, and sunlight was beginning to stream through the shelter windows, illuminating the simple room where two strangers had found exactly what they needed in each other's company.